Hi folks, I'm just going to do a little demonstration video here on how your camper actually works. Now the first thing we're going to look at here is your control panel as you come in the door. Now at the moment you can see the 12 volt is switched on, you have a little green light, and to switch it off you just switch it off here. And that switches off all your 12 volt inside the van. So you come in here and you switch on your van. Now the next two buttons here are your indicators. Now these two work both ways, so if we press this up the way we'll see the condition of your leisure battery, which is up full. And at the bottom here we'll see the condition of the engine battery, which is full as well. Now there's a little yellow LED will come on here when you're plugged in. So when you plug in the van that'll light up. And over on this side here we have our fresh water level, which is up the way. And that's showing 3/4 full. And if we press the button down the way, that's your wastewater. And you can see that's empty at the moment, there's no lights lighting up. So that's just basically your control panel. So moving on to your fridge here, we're just looking at the main control knob here. Now at the moment it's switched off, you can see the little indicators at 0. So that's your fridge off. The first setting is on mains, which you can see the main symbol here. When you're plugged into the mains, that's your fridge on. The next setting down is on, you see the little battery here. That's only for operating the fridge when you're driving. So if the fridge is cooled down, you can maintain the fridge when you're driving by putting that on here, onto the battery. And that'll only operate when the engine's actually running. And the next setting then is on gas. So you'll switch this onto gas here, and we'll come across here then to our gas valve, and we'll push this in and press the igniter a few times. And what that actually does there is lights the flame in the back of the fridge. Now how we'll see, we'll unlock the fridge here and open it up. You can see the little glass tube here, and you'll see down that you'll see a little blue flame, and that's your indicator that your fridge is actually lit. There's not much else to see on the fridge. The fridge catch itself, which you need to have that on the unlock position before you close the door. Close the door and lock it. And then the last thing we have on that gas valve there, that is your actual temperature control for the fridge as well. So you can mess about with that to see what temperature suits you. But that's off full blast, and that'll be as you go down the way there. So that's just your control on the fridge. So the next thing we're going to look at here is your heating controls. Now as you can see we're working on this little nub here on the side, and at the moment it's the 0 mark in here, which is showing that the heater's actually off. Now what you have here, you have hot water at the top. So if we turn that up the way, we have 40 degrees of hot water or 60 degrees of hot water. Now once we switch on any setting on this, you'll always get a green light to show you that it's actually working. Now if it doesn't work, you'll have a red light on here, which indicates that you've most likely run out of gas, or the gas isn't switched on. So normal operation, when you switch that on, you'll have a green light, and when you're heating water you'll always get a yellow light on here. So at the moment we've chosen 40 degrees of hot water, so this little yellow light will stay on until the heater's actually heated all the water in the heater to 40 degrees. And once it gets to that yellow light will actually go out. So the 60 degrees is really for having showers and stuff, because it's a lot hotter than the 40. And to have a shower, what you do is you'd heat it up to 40, let the little yellow light go out, and then switch this up to 60. You'll see the yellow light come back on, and then about 5 minutes later get into your shower and leave that on the 60, and that'll actually heat as you're in the shower. So that's how you'll get your maximum amount of water out of this. So moving on down, if you don't want to heat the water, you can actually heat the van on its own here, which is the first setting here, the first flame. So this is the same as before. We're heating the van, and we've the green light, which shows us that the heater's actually running. Now how you pick the temperature inside the van is with this little turny knob here, and you can see it goes from 1 to 9. Now generally at around 5 or 6 is sufficient to heat the van, but you can turn it up and down as you desire. And when it's at these middle settings here, the heater will actually regulate itself. It'll switch itself on and off, and it uses this thermostat here. That's how it knows the temperature inside the van. Now the last setting at the bottom then is heating the van and heating the water to 60 degrees, which you can see you can bring down to the bottom. So that's heating the van and heating the water, and you can see we've brought on the yellow light again for heating water. So that's really your basic settings. You've heating the van and heating the water. You've heating the van on its own. The heater's off at that position, and then you have our 40 or 60 at the top. Now what we're looking at here is the frost valve on the heater. And now on this fan is located sort of underneath the heater, and you can see the clear pipe going onto it. Now what's on that is there's a red pull-up valve and you can get your hand in there and actually push it up and down. Now at the moment it's actually up, which is the closed position, and when it's up then you'll have water pressure in the van. Now that valve itself will drop down at about 2 degrees to protect the heater from frost, and it'll actually empty all the water in the heater out onto the street outside. Now when that happens you'll lose your water pressure, so to correct that you'll have to come in and lift up your red valve again, and that'll actually close, and then you'll turn on your hot taps. Now at this stage you'll need to have the van switched on to have your pump running, and once all the air has been blown out of your hot taps, the heater's full up again. Now at any stage it's too cold to actually let that valve stay up. If you pull that and it keeps dropping down again, the best way to get that to stay up is switch on the heating. When you switch on the heating, it'll send 12 volts down to a coil inside that valve, and it'll retain it when you pull it up. So the closed position is actually up and the open position is down. So at the moment it should be up, and you'll have all the water pressure in your taps. At any stage, if you lose pressure in your taps, always just come straight to this valve and check that it's actually up. So that's how your frost valve works. Now if you want to winterize the van yourself, you can come down and push that valve down yourself, which drains the water out of the heater, and open all your taps in the van in between hot and cold, and all the water in the van will actually run down through that valve outside and protect all your pipes and your taps. Now in the real severe frost, we would recommend you actually blow into the taps at this stage, and it'll assist to get any extra bits of water mainly out of the tap heads themselves. Now I'm really talking when it's like -5, that really severe frost we get occasionally. So that's your valve in there, and it's worth having a look at. And the way to find it is just follow that clear pipe, and that's attached onto the valve, and it's just underneath that control panel. It's a bit awkward to see with the camera, but you will get a feel for it, and don't be afraid to push it up and down. Now as you can see, the heater is in a compartment of its own here in the back. I would avoid using this for storage of any kind, because you have all your heating pipes and exhaust pipes and wires and pipes and stuff. So just leave that there, and it needs a certain amount of air to operate, so it's better just to leave that compartment free of any stuff that you're trying to store. You can see all your cardboard pipes. That's your heating pipes, and that big black pipe at the back, that's your exhaust and from the heater itself. Now coming on to your hob, it's fairly straightforward. You have your 3 valves here, and you're going to have to use an igniter on it. Now there is safeties on these, as you can see here, your safety thermocouples. So even if somebody turns on these valves, they'll not let out any gas until it's actually lit and it's stayed lit. So it's very similar to what you'd have at home. So at the bottom here we have your oven, and the controls for the oven. You can switch the oven on this way, and at 0 it's off, and on this side is your grill. And there's a little igniter over on this side here, which you switch, that'll spark up your gas and either your oven or your hob, or your grill, sorry. So we're looking here now at your wardrobe, and inside the wardrobe you have your 220 volt truck box, which is just a little truck in a box there, and that's where your mains come in from outside, and that's the truck itself, and it should normally be up in the position it's at the moment. Now if it trips, it'll drop down, and how you do is press it back up to reset it. So just a quick rundown on your toilet here. As you can see, you have the little panel here. This is your flush button, and you can hear the pump operating, and you'll get a little red light come on here when your cassette is full and needs changed. And that's really all there is to the toilet itself. So what we're looking at here now is your leisure battery, which is located underneath the table. There's a little compartment on the floor there, you can see the leg of the table there. And the only other thing you need to look at really in here is this 30 amp fuse. So that would be your main charging fuse. So at any stage your van isn't charging when you plug it in, or it's not charging from the engine, just check that fuse. That's the main charging fuse. So we're outside here now looking into your locker, and you can see the way this van is plugged in, the lead comes up through this hole here, and your lead comes across and plugs in here. So you can close, there's no plug outside, and nobody can plug the van out on you. Your gas compartment, we run all these fans on propane, and you can see we have a propane hose. Now to change this bottle, we close the valve on top of the bottle, and we would loosen loosen the nut on the hose, and it actually loosens clockwise. So it's a left hand thread on this, so it tightens opposite, it tightens that way and loosens that way. And there's a spanner here as well, which will be left for you as well. So what we're looking at here now is the valve for releasing your grey water. Now at the moment there you can see that just opens and closes that way. And you'll see a bit of water coming out there, and that'll close up again. So that's the closed position there, and the open position is that way. So that's just your grey water, all the water from your sinks and your showers. So moving on to the passenger side of the van here, you can see your bonnet pulls here, which you have to open the door to access it. That's your bonnet pull. Underneath the passenger seat here we have your jack and wheel brace. Your diesel fill is here, and you can see the way it operates. You can't open that unless you have the door open. And along this side here then we have our fresh water fill and our toilet cassette. So we're now at your engine compartment here, and you can see, I'll just go through a few things with you. Your window wash fill is here, that's your power steering fluid. Your engine coolant is in here, and your power steering, your brake fluid. Now your dipstick is down the front of the engine here, and this is your oil cap, and you can see here your timing belt has been done in July 18, so that does for 5 years. There's not much else to show you. Over on this side now there's a little, you can see the flip up here. If you ever have to jump start the van, you'll put the positive on here and put the negative onto the frame of the engine, and that'll jump start your van. So what we're looking at here is your main control box for the 12 volt in the back of the van, which is underneath the driver's seat. You just drop down this front compartment here. So I'll just open this up here, and what we have here is all your 12 volt fuses at the bottom here, for all your lights and pumps and bits and pieces inside. So they're just ordinary automotive fuses, and you can see they're labelled there 10 and 20 and whatever amperage they are. So the last thing we're going to look at is your fresh water tank. Now you can see where it fills from outside, and you have a little overflow pipe as well, so if you forget to take out your hose, that'll overflow outside. Now to empty this tank, if you screw off this lid here from the tank itself, if you go over this direction here, you'll see there's a stopper inside that you'll actually pull up inside the tank, and that'll drain your tank if you want to refresh your water. So that's where that lives, and that's underneath the dinette seat beside the table. So the last thing I need to show you really that you mightn't have seen before is the stereo itself. Now what we have here on the stereo is we have an isolation switch here just beside the clocks, and when that does there, you can see the stereo is on there at the moment. If we hit that switch, it actually kills the power to that, so you have no problem with any drainage from the stereo with this switch here. So if you need the stereo on, switch that on and it'll come on as normal. Now you can see I put the van into reverse here, and that acts as your reverse camera as well. You can see your bike rack there. So your reverse camera is actually built into this unit here. So if you put that into reverse, that'll come on there. The rest of it's fairly straightforward. There's a couple of wee USBs and inputs here at the front underneath this little flap here, but the rest was fairly straightforward.